Amitabha. In yesterday's talk, I spoke of giving, precept observation, and the first 3 of the 6 paramitas that bodhisattvas practice. Today, we will continue with the remaining 3 paramitas: diligence, meditative concentration, and prajna wisdom. The 4th paramita is diligence. We need to be diligent in everything we do. We need to accept our responsibilities and do our best to meet those responsibilities. We previously discussed according with, going along with proper conditions, not insisting that others have to do things our way. And as we have learned, when we go along with conditions, we go along with those that are proper. This is why we need wisdom. We need to be able to naturally discern what is proper and what is not. When we have decided that something is proper and we are about to do it, we should not be deterred when things go against us. We should be determined that if something is right and within our purview, then it needs to be done to the best of our abilities. Whether or not things work out as we hope depends on conditions. So our effort goes into our actions, not into expecting or attaching to certain outcomes. If we lack diligence, then as soon as something goes wrong, we will say, it's too difficult, and give up. We have an unfortunate habit of doing this. Very honestly, if we had been sufficiently diligent in our practice in the past, we would not be here today. We'd be in the Pure Land. So clearly, we have not been as diligent in our past lifetimes as we needed to be. When we encounter problems, we need to understand why they are happening. The things that happen to us are the result of causes we created in the past. So the difficulties we encounter now are simply the result of what we have done. Understanding this, we will not blame others, unfortunate timing, bad luck, some outside force, whatever, and then give up. We need to understand that we destined what we are undergoing, that we set things into motion by what we did. But, and this is an important but, how we react to them now is up to us. Yes, we have our habitual ways of reacting. Yes, those reactions seem to occur so naturally that they seem to be the only possible reaction. Yes, even when we've tried to change, we've failed. But no, this does not mean that we are doomed to fail forever. We're not so destined because we have had the great good fortune to encounter the Buddha's teachings. And we have the opportunity to learn about those teachings by delving more deeply into them. And to have the opportunity to practice. For instance, some people who do not understand Buddhism might say that Buddhism is very pessimistic because we speak of evil in this world. For example, the 3 evil paths of the hells, hungry ghosts, and animals. In Buddhism, evil refers to things that hold people back from uncovering their Buddha nature, from acting from their Buddha nature, their true nature. Thus, something is called evil is not saying it is bad or immoral, nor is it saying that individual beings in these paths are evil. On the contrary, since all beings have Buddha nature, the beings in these 3 paths are fundamentally good. Also, as we read in the Seeker's Glossary of Buddhism, Buddhism is not dualistic, and therefore does not divide phenomena into absolute good or evil. It recognizes evil as limitation, and therefore purely relative. There is therefore no problem of evil as in theistic systems of thought. All evil is traced to desire for self. The basic evil is the idea of separateness. And the Buddhist goal is the removal of evil by the eradication of every selfish inclination. So we can see that Buddhism is not pessimistic. It is realistic. It helps us to understand why things happen. With understanding, we now use our judgment and gradually our wisdom to determine what is the proper way to behave, and then, with diligence, we do so. Very often, when people start in cultivation, they seem to encounter many obstacles. At times, these obstacles were brought to us by our karmic creditors. These are beings that we owe debts to from our past lifetimes. If they think that there is a possibility we may be born in the Pure Land in this lifetime, they know they will lose their opportunity for retaliation, for revenge. So they will do whatever they can to cause difficulties for us. What we can do in our practice is to dedicate the merits from our good deeds and from our reciting the Sutra and Amitabha. Whatever our practice is, we can dedicate the merits to those karmic creditors, to all beings who suffer. We can ask our karmic creditors to please allow us to progress in our practice, that we will continue to dedicate the merits on their behalf, and that by our doing this, they will benefit greatly, much more than if they merely got the revenge they are seeking. As we diligently continue in our cultivation, as we try to progress on the path to enlightenment, we will encounter obstacles. This is perfectly normal. It is said that in the first year of our practice, Buddha is right in front of us. In the second year, he is on the horizon. And in the third year, he is off in the clouds. We need to maintain the level of diligence that we had when we first began our practice, when we were very enthusiastic and everything was new and exciting. But as so often happens with new, exciting things, our interest wanes. Now, understanding so much more, there is much more reason to be diligent. Yesterday, we were discussing patience. Nothing is attained without patience and diligence. Whether at home or at work, if we give up at the least difficulty, we will accomplish nothing. There needs to be a balance here. The balance needs to be between diligence and according. And we need to know what the differences are. We accord with others. When everybody wants to do something and there's nothing wrong with it, we accord with them. To be diligent is to take on our responsibilities, to be determined to do the best we can. But in our determination, our diligence, we are not attached, viewing our way as the only way. Diligence needs to accompany our sincere wish to do something. Be a better parent, a more responsible employee or boss, a more compassionate citizen of the world, a more focused Pure Land practitioner. Diligence is needed to properly arrange all these baidians and patience. We need to be diligent in everything that matters, to not give up. When we encounter difficulties, we need to consider why. Maybe we aren't doing something correctly. Maybe they're karmic obstacles. In our diligence, we need to be determined and courageous. When we see something is correct and we say that we will do it, we don't give up. We have practiced Buddhism so many times before, advancing in some lifetimes, falling back in others. If it had gone as we wished, we would not be here. And yet, here we are, still in samsara, still in the cycle of rebirth. Clearly, something was missing. Perhaps our belief was not strong enough. Perhaps we believe that the Buddha became enlightened, but we doubt that our nature is really the same as his. So we doubt that we too have the ability to awaken, to become a perfectly enlightened being. Perhaps we do not believe in cause and effect, at least not as absolutely as we need to. We understand it logically on the surface, but we still react the same way that we always have. We still commit the same faults. We still make the same mistakes. So we do not truly believe in cause and effect. We do not truly believe what the Buddha told us. The Buddha told us what life is like, what existence is like in all the 6 paths. He told us what animal life is like. He told what living in the hungry ghost path was like. And in the Earth Treasure Sutra, he explained very clearly what the hells are like. But still, we do not believe. If we believed, we would be terrified at the thought of going there again. There would be no way we would do anything wrong. But since we are still doing much that is wrong, we must not truly believe. This lack of belief is one of the reasons we are still here. And maybe one of the reasons we are not quite as diligent as we need to be. If we truly believed in the teachings of the Buddha, there would be no way we would be anything but wholeheartedly diligent. Those around us may want to help us, but they cannot make us change. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, understanding and compassionate as they are, with the abilities they have, cannot change us. All they can do is teach us and set examples in the hope that one of these lifetimes we will finally begin to understand. Finally deepen our belief. Finally be diligent enough to let nothing deter us. What we do in this lifetime, we do the best we can. But we need to understand that nothing in this world is real. Nothing is permanent. Nothing lasts forever. The Diamond Sutra tells us that all phenomena are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, and a shadow, like a drop of dew or a flash of lightning. Nothing is real because here in samsara, nothing is permanent. We hear this, but we don't realize it, and so we quickly forget it. As soon as something happens, we again fall back into our bad habits, make the same mistakes, get wrapped up in thinking that what happens here is real. Nothing here is real. Nothing here is worthy of worry. What is in the past is just that, in the past. Learn from it. Determine not to make the same mistakes. Be diligent in correcting those mistakes, and then let go. When we have been hurt by something, by someone, we usually allow the hurt to fester. Each time we replay it in our minds, like a movie, going over what happened, we plant more seeds for unhappiness. Let it go. do not concentrate on what has happened in the past. Learn what not to do now and in the future, and then forget it. Neither should we have wishful, wandering thoughts of the future. Wandering thoughts are improper thoughts, selfish thoughts. We often hear to not have wandering thoughts. What are they? They are pointless, uninvited, unintentional thoughts. When it is said to not have wandering thoughts, this does not mean not to have any thoughts. Obviously, we need to think, but we need to have proper thoughts. Do not have wandering thoughts, those that really do not accomplish anything. They're basically daydreaming. We don't have time to daydream. We don't know how much time we have left. But we do know that, as the Buddha told us, and as common sense tells us, if our next breath does not come, this lifetime is over. We cannot afford to waste another lifetime. We have wasted far too many. Other beings that we have known in our past lifetimes, fellow practitioners, parents, children, have already awakened. They have transcended samsara. They are learning in the Pure Land everything they need to come back and help all beings transcend as well. They have already transcended. We have not. We need to be diligent. The most important thing in this life is what will happen as we are breathing our last breaths. The conditions and circumstances at the time of our death are so important, because those last moments with their final thoughts will lead us to the next lifetime and the ones to follow. If we are diligent in this lifetime, if we make the vow that at the end of this lifetime we will be born in the Western Pure Land, if we are diligent, if we have belief, vow, and practice, if we are confident that we have the exact same nature as the Buddhas, then we can transcend samsara and finally be born in the Pure Land. What's stopping us? Us. No one else can stop us, not if we are determined. Our lifetimes in samsara are like a dream. At night when we have a frightening dream, we wake up abruptly. But even after we wake, our heart is still pounding. We still feel that fear. Gradually, our heart calms down and our fear subsides. But in that dream, we were terrified. We believed it was real. We are in a much, much longer dream. But it is still just a dream. We need to awaken from that dream. And with diligence, we will. The fifth paramita is meditative concentration. If we have meditative concentration, we will not be distracted by the countless things that go on around us. Nor will we be distracted by the countless things that go on within us. Our emotions, our wandering thoughts, our differentiating, discriminating thoughts between others and us, yours and mine, are distractions. None of that is important. Awakened beings know that there is no such thing as you, me, yours, mine. To think that is as silly as saying something belongs to my one hand, but not to my other. Part of the same body, they are essentially one. There is no difference. You and I are one. An object, an experience, is not yours, it is not mine, it is ours. Everything is one. Let go of thoughts of others and us. They lead us to differentiation. They lead us to being convinced that we must protect ourselves, even at the expense of others. They lead us to think that what we are doing is real. They lead us to being mired in samsara. To attain meditative concentration, we can chant Amitabha single-mindedly and without confusion. How do we do this? First, we bring the thought of Amitabha into our mind. Then as we chant or say Amitabha, our ears hear and our mind concentrates on and embraces Amitabha. Thus the mind, the mouth, and the ears are all absorbed in the chanting. If intoning silently, we listen to and concentrate on our voice in our mind. This is our meditative concentration. But we can also use the same process to concentrate when we are at work, reading a book, playing a sport, having a concentration, spending time with our children. Such concentration, like meditative concentration, is not having wandering thoughts. It is being focused on what we are doing. When we are in concentration, we are conserving our energy. We waste energy with wandering thoughts. In the Alphonse 4 lessons, we learn about when Yuen Li Alphon first met Master Yungu and how they sat in meditation for 3 days. No break, no rest, no lunch, no dinner, no sleep. And yet, they didn't become tired. How did they manage this? They maintained meditative concentration. In that state, they did not waste their energy. Achieving this sounds so unimaginable to us, because most of us are uncomfortable, or worse, skipping even one meal. Not eating for 3 days, unbelievable. But this is what can be achieved thanks to concentration. And actually, most of us have had a taste of this phenomena. Because when we are doing something we really enjoy, we are capable of concentration. Think of an activity you really enjoy. Now, imagine your phone rings. Most likely, you'd ignore it because you're totally wrapped up in what you're doing. This is concentration. Another example. This time you're at work. You've been trying to solve a problem for days when a possible solution begins to form in your mind. When somebody pops their head into your cubicle and announces, "It's time for lunch," you mumble, "Fine, you go ahead, I'll join you in a minute." You're still working energetically with the solution, and its process taking shape when you glance at the clock and realize 2 hours have passed, and you never thought of lunch. This is concentration. If our concentration occurs during our Buddha name chanting or reciting a sutra, our goal is a spiritual one, as we strive to attain meditative concentration. The more we are able to concentrate, whether the activity is of a worldly nature or a spiritual one, the process is single-minded concentration. We can do this in everything we do. Consider another story from the Buddha's time. A minister was trying to teach someone concentration, how to focus. The person was not getting it. The minister said, "Fine, I'm going to give you a bowl that I have had filled to the very brim with oil. You cannot spill one drop. If you do, you'll be killed. You are to take this bowl, walk all the way to the village, turn around, and walk back. Do not spill one drop. Your very life depends on it." The person took the bowl and started to slowly walk to the village. The minister called some servants over and instructed them. Find the musicians, find the dancers, tell them to stand along the side of the road, play his favorite music, dance, do everything you can to distract him. Now, go. And the minister waited to see what would happen. After a long time, down the road, he saw the person coming back with the bowl. Very carefully, very slowly, the person approached the minister. When a matter of inches from the minister, the man very slowly showed the minister the bowl. The minister looked at it and said, "Excellent. All the oil is there. You have managed to not spill one drop. I'm curious. How did you manage this? Did you like the music? What did you think of the dancing?" The person looked at it and said, "I'm sorry. What music? What dancing?" He had been absolutely absorbed in his concentration. He had not allowed anything to distract him. His very life had depended on returning that bowl with every drop of oil still in it. His very life had depended on his concentration. Our goal in this lifetime depends even more so on our concentration. The poor man would have been killed one time. If we fail to be born in the Western Pure Land of ultimate bliss at the end of this lifetime, who knows where our next lifetime will be? The animal path, hungry ghost path, the hells. But let's say the incredible happens. And even though we are not born in the Pure Land, we do have the unimaginable good fortune to be reborn as a human. Will we be able to learn Buddhism? Will it be the Pure Land method? Will we have the conditions to practice and then avail ourselves of the conditions? Or might our good fortune lead us to a life of power and wealth? What are the odds we'd be able to resist the temptations of such a self-absorbed lifestyle? It's all too risky. We need to be even more focused than that poor man was in everything we do. When we practice concentration in everyday activities, it will help us in our concentration here in the cultivation hall. Training the mind is a bit like exercising. The more we do something, the more natural and consistent it becomes. This will help us do better in everything we do. When we have something to do, and we really don't want to do it, we find that it's very difficult for us to pay attention, much less concentrate. We sit down and prepare to do our task when somebody walks in the room, says something to us, and in an instant we're up and trailing after them, talking all the while. Several minutes later, we come back, sit down, and again, try to focus. This time, somebody comes over to offer us something to eat, and we accept, saying, "Oh, good, I like that," and start eating. Our mind has wandered off again. Accomplishing anything in this way takes a very long time and will not be done properly. We need concentration to benefit from everything we do. With meditative concentration, we will be able to listen to the teachings of the Buddha and understand them much better than we have previously. We cultivate to attain concentration, to calm our wandering thoughts, to be able to focus on what we are doing, on what we are hearing. We listen and we focus on those teachings to learn why we cultivate. Learning and cultivation are complementary. We need both. And we need to do both on a daily basis. Meditative concentration will enable us to gradually reduce our wandering thoughts. When they are reduced, we will start to naturally give rise to our prajna wisdom, which is the sixth paramita. This is not worldly wisdom, worldly knowledge, what we go to school to learn, what we learn throughout our lives, in our reading, through our experiences. Prajna wisdom is innate wisdom. It is the perfect intuitive understanding that arises from within us, without the presence or need of analysis, judgment, discrimination, differentiation. People who have wisdom can hear a complicated problem and intuitively know how to solve it. We too have this ability. They have begun to uncover their wisdom. Ours is still very buried, very deep within us. It is buried by our bad habits, by our attachments, our worrying, our greed, anger, arrogance, ignorance, and doubt. Deluded as we are, we do not understand. We listen to the words. We view what is happening. We may even consider what we've listened to and viewed, but we don't really understand. If we can practice, if we can concentrate, the wandering thoughts will calm down and our innate prajna wisdom will start to arise from within us. We don't need to seek it outside of us. Everything we need, we already have. The only being who is keeping us from uncovering this wisdom, as well as our compassion, our loving kindness, is us. We now have an unbelievably rare opportunity. We can barely begin to understand how rare it is. Imagine, if you will, a vast ocean, larger than anything we have in this world. At the bottom, the very deepest part of the ocean, visualize one lone turtle. Now, imagine it rising to the surface of that ocean upon which floats one small wreath of flowers. Imagine that turtle rising slowly to the surface to break through the surface within that one wreath of flowers. If we can begin to imagine what this is like, then we will begin to understand how rare it is to be sitting here listening to a teaching on the Dharma. When Buddhism is gone from this world in about 9,000 years, there will be no Buddha to teach us for approximately 5,600 million years. This multi-million year gap between Sakyamuni Buddha and the next Buddha, Maitreya, shows how incredibly rare it is in our world, our Buddha land, to learn directly from a Buddha. Around the world today are places where people are embroiled in conflict and war. While there are problems, it is samsara after all. In all other places of the world, the people in those areas live in relative peace. They, and we, have good conditions. Many of us have time to learn and practice. This is not really a new experience for us. We have learned and practiced in many lifetimes. We have listened to the teachings and chanted Amitabha in many lifetimes. We have vowed, I will become a Buddha. Innumerable times. We have told others, I will go to the Western Pure Land of ultimate bliss. I will come back. I will help you. Many times. We have not done so. We're still here. They, those we promised to help, are still here. We do not go to the Western Pure Land for ourselves. We go there to help all others. We go there to learn all the 84,000 methods. We don't need to learn them now. We only need to learn and practice one method. For us, that is the Pure Land method. The other methods are equally good, more suitable for others than for us. We have found a method that is appropriate for us, or we would not keep coming back for the cultivation, for the lectures, for the practice to be here. So this is our method of practice. We have found the right one. We have found our good teacher. Our conditions are unbelievably good. We have no idea when was the last time we were able to learn and practice Buddhism. And if we do not achieve in this lifetime by being born in the Pure Land, we have no idea when we will again hear the teachings and be able to practice. Nothing is as important as this. Do the best in everything you do. Do not attach to it. Concentrate. Vow to be born in the Western Pure Land. Chant the Buddha name. Recite one sutra, one Pure Land sutra. Practice one method. Believe what the Buddhas tell us. The teachings of all Buddhas are the same, because the teachings of all the Buddhas are the truth, and the truth does not change. What the Buddha said 3,000 years ago was the truth. It is still the truth, and it will always remain the truth. The Buddha told us of Amitabha Buddha and the Western Pure Land. He told us that in the Dharma ending age, this would be the primary practice for transcending samsara. The Buddha knew the problems we would have. He knew all about our bad habits, our wandering and differentiating thoughts. He knew we beings in the Dharma ending age would not be able to transcend samsara on our own, and that we would need the help of Amitabha Buddha. But all Amitabha can do is to help us, to provide a land for us to go to teach us how to get there. He cannot do the work for us. The way he helps us is through his vows, especially through the 18th vow, that if we are able to chant his name 10 times, at the end of our lives, he will come to guide us to the Pure Land. Knowing that everything arises from the mind, we need to be single-mindedly mindful of Amitabha. When we are thinking only of Buddha, we are Buddha in that instant. In that instant, we are one with Buddha, for we are tapping into the true nature already within us. This is how we are born in the Pure Land. When we are mindful of Amitabha Buddha, more and more so every day, we are increasing our connection with Amitabha Buddha, for we are increasing our meditative concentration. If we are able to focus on his name in our very last moments, as we are about to breathe our last breaths, then finally, we will be able to be born into the Western Pure Land of ultimate bliss in this lifetime. And finally, we will be home. We do this not for ourselves. We do this for the benefit of all beings throughout the universe. Amitabha.